Tantor Audio, a division of Recorded Books, presents Killers of a Feather by T.C. Lotempio. Narrated by C.S.E. Cooney. 1. You know, you've put me in a very awkward position. This is extremely short notice. Yes, of course I understand. I know it can't be helped. Okay, fine. Yeah, I'll be on the lookout for it. Had I been on a landline, I'd have slammed the receiver down with a satisfying crash. But since I'd taken the call on my cell, I had to settle for hitting the end key and dropping the phone on the desk with a bit more force than necessary. Across the room, my big, beautiful, fluffy white Persian cat, Purday, gave me a look, as much as a feline can, that said, "What's wrong?" I looked the cat straight in his one clear blue eye. Guess what? The singer I hired canceled. Purday cocked his head. "Meow." You heard me right. He canceled. Apparently his grandmother, who's in a nursing home in Florida, suffered a bad fall. She has no other relatives, so he's got to fly down immediately. I ran my hand through my mass of blonde curls and gave one of them a sharp tug. Oh, I know it's a valid excuse, but it puts us in a heck of a position. The grand opening's Saturday. That's 48 hours away. Where am I going to find another singer on such short notice? Purday jumped down from his perch on the wide sill of the window in the back room of my store. He padded over to my chair, leapt onto my lap, and nuzzled his nose against my chin. I stroked the cat's back. I know. I'm from Hollywood. I should be used to rejection, right? Let me tell you, it never gets any easier. My name is Shell McMillan. Up until a few months ago, I'd been better known as Shell Marlowe, the star of Spy Anyone, a popular cable TV show. When it had been canceled to make way for a game show starring the irrepressible Alec Baldwin, I'd looked on it as a chance to get a fresh start in life. As fate would have it, my Aunt Tilly passed away a few days later, leaving me her Victorian mansion, a healthy financial portfolio, her cat, Purday, and her business, the Urban Tales Pet Shop. Urban Tales had been a favorite with the residents of Fox Hollow, Connecticut. The citizens of the sleepy village loved their pets, and they loved the personal services my aunt used to provide for them even more. In the past week, I'd received many phone calls and letters saying how much everyone was looking forward to having the shop open again. Truthfully, I was looking forward to it myself. So much so that I might have gotten a bit carried away with preparations. I'd secured an ordinance from the town to have the block closed to traffic from 10 a.m. to 6 in the evening, and enlisted the cooperation of the other merchants who were all more than willing to help. It was going to be one huge block party. In addition to the food trucks I'd hired and the vocalist that I now didn't have, I'd booked some other local entertainment as well. All the merchants would have displays out in front of their stores, and Rita Sikowski, who ran the local cafe Sweet Perks, had promised to serve free coffee and donuts all day long. Everything had been running like clockwork. Maybe too much so, until now. The back door opened, and my pal, Olivia Niven, her arms laden with bags, sailed through. Purday jumped off my lap and padded over to rub his portly body against Olivia's legs. My cat loved Olivia, as did most men. She was tall, with a lithe dancer's body, which was appropriate since she ran the local dance studio. Her thick dark hair was done up in a casual ponytail, and her face, scrubbed clean of makeup, looked fresh and dewy. She looked more like one of the teens in her dance class than their 35-year-old teacher. Her ponytail flipped over one shoulder as she laid the bags down and bent to pet Purday. "Hey there, handsome," she cooed. "All excited about the grand opening?" "He's probably more excited than I am right now," I said glumly. "Right now, I'm extremely annoyed." Olivia looked up from giving Purday a chuck under his chin. "Uh-oh, what's wrong? Something happened with the Rialto? Don't tell me Buck backed out after all." The Rialto was one of Fox Hollow's staples, a small theater that specialized in running classic films. The manager, Buck Adams, had been a tad reluctant to participate at first. He'd had a few bad experiences with events like this in the past, but I finally managed to convince him to participate in this one by A, telling him every other merchant was in and he'd look really dumb refusing, and B, offering him freebies for his 2 pugs, Tracy and Hepburn. He promised to have a sidewalk concession stand offering fairly simple stuff: caramel apples, popcorn, cookies, and some light beverages. After some arm twisting and monogrammed ceramic bowls for Tracy and Hepburn, he'd also agreed to a raffle for 2 movie tickets. Nope, Buck's fine. It's Elvin Scraggs. He's bugged out on me. His grandmother in Florida took a bad fall. Olivia coughed lightly. "His granny, huh?" Something in the tone of her voice made me glance up sharply. "Don't tell me he doesn't have one," I moaned. "Oh, he's got a granny in Florida, all right," Olivia said with a chuckle. "Viola Scraggs is pushing 90, but she's got more energy than both you and me combined. The woman power walks every morning. Elvin's more likely to take a spill than her." I set my jaw. I knew it. Olivia leaned in a bit closer to me. "I happened to be in the Bottoms Up Tavern yesterday and overheard Elvin talking to his buddies Justin McAfee and Harvey Blunt about taking a fishing trip. I also noticed he shut up pretty quick when he noticed me." I reached for my phone. Of all the nerve! I'm going to call him back and give him a piece of my mind. Gary will never let me live this down. He told me to get a signed contract. Olivia reached out, plucked the phone from my outstretched hand, and set it down on the counter. "Don't feel bad. It wouldn't be the first time he pulled a stunt like this because someone told him the bass were running." "Amazing. I'm surprised no one sued him yet." Olivia let out a hearty laugh. "Sue Elvin? For what? The guy's got no money, and the property he owns is mortgaged to the hilt. He lives like a hermit out there in the woods doing odd jobs to make ends meet. Last week I heard he offered to help Mitch Frey fix some security cameras that weren't recording the time correctly. Everyone knows what he's like. The guy came out of the womb with a fishing pole in his hands. Given the chance, he'd spend all his time in that ramshackle canoe rather than doing any real work. He's just biding his time, waiting for dear old Granny to kick the bucket and leave him all her money. Did you give him a deposit?" $50. He said he'd send me a check." "Make sure you get it," Olivia cautioned. "Elvin always suffers from selective memory lapses when it comes to that little detail." "Well, if it doesn't turn up by next week, I will give him a call. But right now, what I need is another singer. Any suggestions?" "Do you really need one? You've got the boom boxes and CDs, after all. They'll provide a wider range of tunes." "I know, but I was looking forward to the live interaction. Elvin was slated to perform for an hour at the gazebo. I thought it would be fun. He could interact with the audience, do requests. Can't do that with boom boxes." "Maybe Gary could pull a few strings," Olivia suggested. "He's always talking about his Hollywood connections." I fought the impulse to roll my eyes at my friend. Olivia was referring to Gary Presser, my former co-star on Spy Anyone. He'd come to Fox Hollow to help out when I'd been suspected of murder a short time ago. A long story, recounted elsewhere for those who are interested. I thought he'd returned to L.A. once the culprit was behind bars. Instead, he declared he'd been won over by the town and a simpler way of life, and had decided to stay on. I was more inclined to think his attraction to Olivia and hers to him had more to do with it. He was currently searching for an apartment, and Olivia was helping him. In the interim, he was staying with me. Fortunately, my Victorian mansion is large enough so I could go for days without seeing him. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Gary, like a brother, but sometimes he can be a bit much, what with his oversized ego and all. He does have his good points, though. The main one being his remarkable cooking skills, which were much appreciated, not only by me, but by the kiddies. Day was fond of Gary, and lately, my Siamese cat Kahlua even seemed to tolerate him, probably due to the treats he slipped them when he thought I wasn't looking. As if on cue, the back door banged open again, and the man in question breezed through. "Hello there," he said. "How are the two loveliest ladies in Fox Hollow today?" Olivia's cheeks flushed a delicate shade of pink, and she murmured something in response. I, however, stood, feet apart, arms crossed over my chest, and glared at him. "Not so great," I announced. "There's been a last-minute cancellation. Our singer punked out." "Singer? You mean Elvis?" "Elvin," I corrected. Gary frowned. "What happened? He got a better offer?" "His granny took a spill, or so he says," Olivia informed Gary with a broad wink. Gary shrugged. "So he played the granny card, eh? No loss. I didn't much care for him anyway. He seemed a bit too slick." He looked at me and jabbed his finger in the air. "Make sure you get that deposit back. $50 is $50. I bit down hard on my lower lip and mentally counted to 10 before I spoke. "Is there a particular reason you are gracing me with your presence now? I was under the impression you were spending the day finalizing details with our live entertainers." "I was, until I ran into a bit of a snag." I arched a brow. "A snag? Don't tell me it's another cancellation." He ran his hand through his mass of black hair, mussing up the sides just a bit. "In a manner of speaking, it's Captain Snaggle." "The parrot?" I cried. At my feet, I heard Day give a soft hiss. "What's happened to him? He isn't—" "No, Captain Snaggle is fine. It's just, well, he's MIA." I stared at him. MIA? Gary pulled a face. "He flew the coop, literally. One of the high school kids was cleaning his cage and forgot to secure the latch. Captain Snaggle opened the door with his beak and, well, he took off." Olivia barely suppressed a chuckle. "Now that's a smart bird, all right. Refresh my memory. Just what was the parrot supposed to do exactly?" "Tell fortunes," Gary and I chorused. "He was a tad restless, but once he got going, he was very entertaining," Gary added. "He'd hold a little conversation with you, then pull your fortune out of a box." "You don't say." Olivia slid a glance Gary's way. "Did he tell your fortune?" Gary leaned over and graced Olivia with one of his super 100-watt mega smiles. "Yes, he did. He told me a really pretty brunette was in my future." As Olivia dissolved into a girlish giggle, I remarked, "Maybe it's not as big a loss as you think. After all, we already have a fortune teller." Gary's gaze snapped from Olivia to me. "We do? And who might that be?" "I told you at dinner the other night. Rita's neighbor, May Barker." "Rita recommended May? That's a hoot," Olivia said with a chuckle. "I didn't think Rita liked May that much. She's always telling me what a nosy busybody she is." "I did get the impression Rita recommended her to get her off her back," I admitted. "May works at the Wegmans, but dabbles in the tarot and palm reading in her spare time. Rita did say, albeit a bit grudgingly, that she's pretty good, and some of the stuff she's predicted has actually come true." Olivia cocked her head, considering. "There's probably room for both of them. she said at last. May would no doubt appeal to the adults, and the kids would really go for the parrot. That's what I thought, I said, and sighed. It's moot now. No Captain Snaggle. And I'd planned to put him right in front of the shop, too, as a sort of enticement. I'm glad to hear you say that. Gary cleared his throat. Because I've got another parrot all lined up and ready to go. I stared at him. You're kidding. You found another fortune-telling parrot? Where? The same breeder, actually. Honeybell is Captain Snaggle's sister. Honeybell, what an adorable name! Olivia clapped her hands. And she tells fortunes, too? Yep, pulls them out of a box just like the captain. Only thing is, she's not as vocal as the other parrot, but maybe that's a good thing. Gary turned to me. So, what do you think, Shell? Shall I lock down Honeybell? Adrian even agreed to take a 10% cut on the fee. That's surprising, considering he haggled over Captain Snaggle's to begin with. Adrian Arnold was a parrot breeder/trainer who lived in nearby Franklin. He'd boasted that some of his birds had appeared on television and commercials, although I'd yet to find evidence of that. He'd wanted $500 for Captain Snaggle's appearance, which had seemed unduly high to me. It had taken all of mine and Gary's charm combined to get him to agree to half that. Needless to say, I'd been less than impressed with the man. I think he feels bad about what happened. He said he'd take $175, but I've got to let him know. Gary glanced at his watch. In an hour. I arched my eyebrow at him. Why, does the bird have another gig lined up? Adrian said something about a kid's birthday party. I got the impression, though, that he'd rather do our gig. And whether you believe it or not, the guy did feel bad about what happened with the captain. I had the feeling Arnold was more upset about losing a potential income source than about disappointing us, but I'd learned over the years it was best to pick your battles, especially where Gary was concerned. I might not like or trust Arnold, but I knew, despite what I'd said about not needing two fortune-tellers, that the bird would undoubtedly be the bigger hit. Sure, why not? I admit, I'm curious to see how good this parrot is at predicting the future. Maybe we should consult her now. Maybe she can tell us where we can get another vocalist. Olivia looked at Gary. I told her the boomboxes were good enough. Most people won't care about a live singer anyway. They'll be having too good a time, I hope. Gary nodded. I agree with Olivia, he said, and then held up his hand, traffic cop style. You could probably get away without music entirely. They'll just be jazzed. Urban Tales will be open again. I know, I conceded, but it would have been nice. And the flyers do advertise a live vocalist. He slid his arm around my shoulders. I know how you are when you get your heart set on something. Tell you what, I'll ask around when I'm out and about. That's very kind of you. Worst case scenario, I could always be persuaded to perform a few numbers. I threw up both hands. Nope, absolutely not. Oh, come on. You know I have a pretty good voice. I've passed by the guest bathroom and heard you several times. I'd prefer that your singing remain in the shower, if it's all the same to you. Gary glanced over at Purday. Purday's heard me. What do you think, fella? Purday stretched out on the floor and put his paws up to his ears. Thanks a lot. Say, aren't blue-eyed white cats supposed to be deaf anyway? Olivia drew in a breath. Oh, my goodness. Is that really true? I thought it was just a myth. No, it's true, I said. It's a condition called congenital sensorineural deafness. It occurs in domestic cats with a white coat, and is most likely to appear in cats with blue irises. I'd always harbored a secret desire to be a veterinarian, and after I had adopted Purday, I had looked it up. It doesn't mean that every blue-eyed white cat is deaf, though. If you ask me, Purday can hear just fine. Gary laughed. "Or he reads lips." Purday let out a loud meow and glared at Gary with his one good eye. Gary threw up both hands. Okay, I'm going." He started for the door, paused. "I forgot to take something out for dinner. How about meeting at the Bottoms Up at 5:30 instead? My treat." You really like that place, don't you? The pub-style eatery was new in town, only having opened 2 weeks ago, and was fast becoming a town favorite. Both Gary and Olivia had become regulars. I'd been so busy the past few weeks with plans for the reopening that I'd had yet to try it. "Their cooking is almost as good as mine," Gary said solemnly. "Plus, who can resist that name?" When I didn't laugh at his lame joke, he added, "Seriously, you should try their macaroni and cheese shell. You'd love it." He looked at Olivia. "You're invited too, of course. And Rita and Ron too, if they're available. We can have a little pre-opening celebration." Rita Sikowski owned the local coffee shop, of course, and Ron Webb was the local florist. They, along with Olivia, had taken me under their wings when I'd moved to Fox Hollow. "That sounds great," Olivia said. "Count me in. I'll call Rita and Ron, too." Gary looked at me. "How about it, Shell?" I sighed. "Sure, why not? I've got to eat. And who knows? Maybe a miracle will happen and I'll land a great singer by 5. "Stranger things have happened," Gary called over his shoulder as he ushered Olivia out the door. Purday blinked his good eye. "Meow." Once they'd gone, I plucked a thick sheaf of papers from my desk and started going down the neat rows, looking at stock and making sure we had enough of everything for the big day. I'd ordered plenty of pet food of all sorts for cats, dogs, birds, hamsters, rabbits. I had 2 rows of bowls and eating accessories, and 3 full of toys. Brightly colored pet carriers covered one side of the far wall. The only thing lacking, at the moment, was livestock. Adrian Arnold had left me one of his brochures in the hopes I'd take on some of his parrots, but I'd put him off. There were a few other reputable breeders I wanted to consult with before I made a decision. So far, I'd contracted with a parakeet and canary breeder, as well as one for hamsters, rabbits, and fish, but nothing could be delivered until next month. I planned in the interim, however, to contact the local animal shelter to see if I could arrange some dog and cat adoption days over the next few weeks. My eyes teared up for a brief instant, thinking how proud my aunt would be to see Urban Tales hosting events like those. I tucked the papers underneath one arm and started to turn toward the back room, which doubled as a combination storeroom/office. As I passed the front door, I saw movement out of the corner of my eye and whirled around to see a face pressed up close against the glass. I took a step backward and halted the involuntary shriek that rose to my lips as I realized the face belonged to a boy, a teenaged boy. He raised a hand, tapped 2 fingers against the glass. I pointed to the sign on the door, marked closed. He shook his head and tapped again, more urgently this time. I twisted the lock and opened the door a 1/4 of an inch, just enough to stick my nose out. "I'm sorry, but we're not officially open for business yet. The grand opening is this Saturday." The boy nodded. "I know. I'm here about the job." "Job?" My forehead wrinkled, then cleared. "Oh, if you mean the clerk positions, I hired 2 people yesterday." The boy shook his head, making the gelled spikes on top wiggle just a tad. "No, not the clerk job. The assistant manager position." I rubbed absently at my forehead. I was looking for someone I could trust to run the store in my absence, but I determined the ideal candidate would be older, with some experience with animals. My associate, Gary Presser, has been conducting the interviews for that." The boy's face split in a wide grin. "I know. I spoke with him yesterday. He told me to come by today around 3. He said that you would want to interview me yourself?" "He did he?" I sighed, then opened the door all the way. Why don't you come in? I just have to make a quick phone call. Thanks. He ambled past me, and I took a moment to study him. He was probably somewhere around 15 or 16, and resembled any number of young boys that same age, with his spiky haircut, black t-shirt, and jeans. He seemed more fastidious about his appearance than some of the other applicants Gary'd brought in, though. His shirt was tucked in, and his pants weren't overly baggy. I snatched my cell phone up and hit the speed dial number for Gary. He answered on the second ring. Hey, good looking. Miss me already? In your dreams. Say, Gary, did you forget to tell me something when you were here earlier? No, I don't think so. Are you sure? Nothing about someone who'd be stopping by? A young man? Ah, jeez. I heard a loud slapping sound. Is he there? Yes. I hissed into the phone. Would you mind telling me just who he is? Your new assistant manager, or at least the best candidate for the job I've seen so far. Gary answered. His name is Robert Grant, but he prefers to go by Robbie. But he's just a kid, I protested. I wanted someone older. He's 18, Gary replied. Graduated Fox Hollow High 2 weeks ago, and he's starting college in September. Oh, great. So he'll be working here, 2 months, and then he's off to college? No, Gary said. He's going local, going to study animal science at UConn. He might want to go on to veterinary school, but that's a few years off. He had my attention now, and he knew it. Animal science, huh? Yep. He lives in Douglas, just outside Fox Hollow. His parents have a farm. His mother raises chickens and sells eggs. I think they've got a few cows, too, maybe a horse. Anyway, the point is, the kid's got experience with animals, which none of the other applicants had. I didn't promise him the job. I just said I thought you'd like to interview him. Don't forget, bottoms up at 5:30, unless I catch you at home before then. Gary rang off, and I tapped my cell against my chin. I looked back at Robbie, who sat slouched in the chair next to the counter. I sucked in my breath, squared my shoulders, and walked over to him. I looked down at him with what I hoped was a pleasant smile and said, Gary tells me you're college-bound. You're interested in animal science? Robbie's face lit up. Oh, yes, ma'am. I love animals. It's natural, I guess. My parents have a farm, and my mother has a little egg business that I help her with. So your dad is a farmer? Robbie laughed. Oh, no, ma'am. My dad's an accountant. He inherited the farm from his mother, my grandmother, but he does breed dogs on the side. I lowered myself into the chair opposite Robbie. The kid had a genuine interest in animals, I could see that. His face practically glowed. Tell me a bit about that, I encouraged him. He breeds bloodhounds. You've heard of Broadway Symposium's Summer Lovin'? As I shook my head, he went on. He's a mighty fine bloodhound. Won the AKC Best of Breed at the Connecticut Pet Show twice, and came in second in Best of Breed at Westminster 2 years ago. Came out of one of our litters. We used to breed Cocker Spaniels, too, but the hounds are more popular around these parts. He grinned at me, showing off even white teeth. I'm pretty good with dogs and cats, too, if I do say so myself. My girlfriend has 2 cats. Really? I do, too. They'll probably be hanging around the store a lot. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, here comes one now. As if on cue, Purr Day emerged from his corner. He ambled over to where Robbie sat and fixed him with his one-eyed stare. Robbie appeared totally unruffled. He bent over to give Purr Day a scratch under his chin. Well, aren't you a fine-looking fellow? His hand reached out, brushed against Purr Day's fluffy white tail. Pedigree, he said. That's right. This is Purr Day. He belonged to my aunt, who originally owned this store. Robbie scratched Purr Day under his chin, and Purr Day purred like a locomotive. He seems very gentle. How'd he lose the eye? I heard it was in a fight, and the other cat walked off looking much...
Sample complete. Ready to continue?